Hello and welcome back to the Bright Light Wellness YouTube channel and the Healing with Homeopathy Substack. Thanks so much for being here. Today I'm really excited to talk with you about flower essences, a topic that I have recently been diving into, learning more about, and honestly, what really drew me into learning more about flower essences is some of the healing stories that I heard, number one. And then number two is learning how they actually work deeper than homeopathy on the mental emotional sphere. And to me, the mental emotional sphere or patterns is what's driving the physical. So to me, I was like, okay, I want to support, of course, homeopathy supports clients on the physical, mental, and emotional level. But this actually just works deeper on the mental emotional. It works for some of the physical too, but mostly on the mental emotional, deeper on these like deep subconscious patterns that we have and how much they're so gentle and subtle and they can shift if you shift the mental emotional, you shift the physical for sure. And like I said, they're gentle and subtle. And the other thing about flower essences, there is no aggravation, there is no proving, like in homeopathy, if you keep taking the same remedy over and over again, you can develop a proving, right? If you don't need that remedy, because if you need it, it's going to heal. But if you don't need it, it can cause a proving. Not after one dose, but after lots and lots of doses. So what that really drew me into learning more about flower essences and having like another support for my clients and for myself and my family. So I'm really excited. I'm mostly learning mostly about Bach flower essences. And of course, I might learn about other ones in the future, but right now it's mostly Bach flower essences. And Edward Bach is a pretty cool dude because he was actually a homeopath as well. And he was actually really big into bowel nosodes. I will talk about that. I was just looking to see if I had a book on bowel nosodes, but it's upstairs in my bedroom. I'm reading it. But Bach, what was cool about Bach is he had this realization that there was a connection between our gut flora, our gut microbiome, and our emotional body. And he made that connection, and he kind of was the founder also of bowel nosode. So nosode is taking a specific like strain of like say bacteria or something, like you're taking the actual substance in homeopathic preparation. So, like one of them is E. coli. A bowel nosode would be E. coli, and you're taking E. coli in homeopathic preparation, so the body then helps to rebalance the E. coli in your system, basically. So he was really one of the founders of that as well, of the bowel nosodes as well, not just flower essences, but flower essences was really his jam. He was able to kind of like speak to the flowers, he was very super energetically sensitive, Bach, very energetically sensitive. So he could just be in the presence of the flowers and he could get their healing potential, like he could feel their healing potential and what they could support. So a Bach flower or just flower essences in general, they're very gentle, they're energetic remedies made from flowers, and they transform emotional patterns, trauma imprints, and subconscious stress reactions. They're very subtle yet powerful, and many people don't realize how deep they actually go. Like I said, they actually can go deeper than homeopathy, which is kind of amazing. So they are vibrational medicine. That's what flower essences are. They are a vibrational imprint, right? Of a flower essence. Okay. They're made from fresh blossoms of flowers. Okay. The blossoms, the flower part of the plant, pure spring water and sunlight. So they're actually infused with sunlight, which is also really interesting to me because I love sunlight and I'm really big on the power of sunlight. So that's like the energetic imprint when the flower blossom is put in with spring water and with sunlight. It's under sunlight, I should say, the energetic imprint is then, passed on to the water. And we all know, I mean, if you're following my channel, you understand the work of Veda Austin, you understand the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto, and how water can hold energy and information and frequency and vibration, right? So a flower essence is a vibration or an energetic imprint of that substance, right? Just like a homeopathic remedy. The difference is that there's not a strong dilution and succussion. There is a dilution process that imprints the flower's energetic signature into the water, but it's not as much dilution and succussion as a homeopathic remedy. So they don't work chemically. They work on the emotional, mental, and subtle energies of the body where like rooted patterns of illness actually begin. So to me, that's like the mental emotional is where it's at, right? So, like I mentioned before, Bach flower essences were created in the early 1900s, 1930s or so by Dr. Edward Bach. He was a physician, he was a homeopath, and he was a bacteriologist, right? He studied poop, really. He went from poop to flowers, which is interesting. Um, and the cause of all disease, he believed the cause of all disease is a disharmony between the soul and the personality, right? You're not living in alignment. Your soul's not living in alignment. So the flower essences were a way to bring your soul back to alignment. So, like I said, he trained in conventional medicine. Then he moved into bacteriology, and like I said, he noticed that the patterns in the back. He noticed like a person who had like too much E. coli had a certain mental emotional picture, or I can't remember another one, but like Bacillus or something. Like they would had different emotional patterns. So he was able to connect the bacterial flora to the person's mental emotional, which was really, really pretty profound in that time. He had a big hand in developing what's called bowel nosodes, which is very interesting. So these are remedies, like I said, made from different bacteria that's in the gut flora. So it's funny, I was just listening to a podcast and I'm like, this is so great because they were talking about fecal transplants and how good they can be for health, right? Well, not they weren't really talking about that, but they mentioned that, right? And then they said, well, you could just use bowel nosodes and you could transform your bacterial flora by using bowel nosodes instead of having to use, go get like a medical transplant, right? Like that would be a such more simple way to do it, right? So then he got into energetic medicines. He was a homeopath and also nature-based emotional healing. And then he discovered that flowers shift emotional frequencies and that each type of emotional imbalance had a matching flower remedy. Pretty cool, right? So flower essences work by harmonizing emotional patterns, clearing trauma imprints, balancing overreactions, releasing some conscious fears, restoring resilience and inner trust. They act like a tuning fork for the emotional field. So they're a tuning fork for your emotions, right? Cells also like a tuning fork to the cell's minerals, right? Homeopathy is a tuning fork to the whole vital force. Flower essences are a tuning fork for the emotional fields. So when you take an essence, your body gently resonates with the flower's vibration, allowing emotional patterns to soften, unwind, and shift. Okay. So the science behind this, like I mentioned before, it's about water memory and the water's ability to imprint this vibrational signature onto the water. So the vibrational information is shown, right? So it's shown in structuring, it's shown in coherence, it's shown in hydrogen bonding, in photonic emissions and quantum field interactions. So essences use water as the carrier for the emotional frequencies. It's again comes back to the water holds the memory, the information, right? That vibrational information, right? And I said, look into the work of Veda Austin if you don't believe me, and Dr. Masaru Emoto. There's also the biofield science. The human body has a measurable electromagnetic field, right? Think about your heart, right? They go and you get, they measure the electrical field of your heart, basically, is what they're doing when they're checking on your heart. The heart has the strongest electromagnetic field, actually. Um, so the human body has an electromagnetic field, and emotions create frequency patterns, tension signatures, shifts in heart rate variability for sure, and changes in coherence. In fact, heart and coherence, the coherence of your heart affects the coherence of your entire cells and body and biofield. And again, we feel a lot of our emotions in our heart. Like my heart feels heavy, my heart hurts, right? My stomach, that's where I feel my nervousness. Not me necessarily, but some people do. They feel nervous or the anxiety or they feel their fear. We feel our emotions in our physical body, right? We know that. Grief is held in the lungs, fear and anxiety is held in the kidneys, right? Trauma, a lot of times, is held in the solar plexus or the gut, right? We know this, right? Our inability to communicate is in our throat or that can block our throat, right? We can block it and not be able to communicate. So essences shift the biofield and the body reorganizes around that new information. So they're shifting that field of energy and then the cells then reorganize and the body, the biofield reorganizes. Of course, epigenetics plays a role here because emotions determine gene expression, they determine inflammation, they determine autonomic nervous system tone, right? So again, when we ever can think that the body is extremely interconnected. So we can't ever think that, oh, I'm just going to, affect my emotional body and it's not going to have effect on my physical body. Well, our emotions affect our gene expression. Our emotions affect the amount of inflammation that we have in our body. They affect the autonomic nervous system, right? So flower essences support the emotional terrain that controls this biology. So, types of emotional healing that flower essences can address. There are 38 different Bach flower essences, but there are, of course, the Australian bush. There's another one called Northern European ones, I believe. So, they can address things or support things like fear or overwhelm or sensitivity to others or guilt or shame or trauma or exhaustion or overthinking or loss of self or hopelessness or lack of confidence or difficulty adjusting to change. And these are not symptom band-aids, okay? Like when we take like a pharmaceutical, that's just a band-aid. These will shift the emotionals at the root system of that illness, okay? We need to shift that in a more deep way. We don't want to suppress the system, we want to support the system. It's two different ways of looking at the body. And when we suppress the symptoms, we just keep driving pathology deeper in the body. So we want to support and up-level the body. Flower essences are safe for every single person, and why this is why I love them so much. They're safe for children, animals, pregnancy, just like homeopathy too. But there's no aggravations, where in homeopathy you have the potential of an aggravation. They layer beautifully with homeopathy. They work synergistically with homeopathy. So yes, you can pair homeopathy and flower essences. In fact, they can help you through an aggravation, right? They can help support you through the tough moments, right? If you have a good flower essence. Toolkit, I should say. They support trauma healing gently. There's no interactions with medications. You don't even have to worry about taking them away from food like you do homeopathy. They harmonize emotional patterns without like being forceful, right? We don't need to, maybe you don't need to sit in years and years of therapy. Maybe you could just take some flower essences and some, homeopathy and you could move on. They support the nervous system and the subtle body, and they're very good for people who are stuck in long-term trauma, long-term stress, long-term emotional sensitivity. They can be very transformative, long-term chronic illness. They can be very transformative for that. Some popular flower essences, like here's a few we'll just share. Star of Bethlehem is one of the main flower essences for shock, trauma, emotional numbing, or grief, or just frozen shut down from trauma. So any kind of trauma or shock to the body, we think of Star of Bethlehem. Um, we think of aspen for fears, vague fears, anticipatory anxiety, sensitive to the environment in general. Like they're just very sensitive people. They have a lot of fears. We think of aspen. Mimulus is for known fears, shyness, sensitivity. So aspen's more for vague fears. Like I just kind of like fearful of everything. It's very phosphorus like, right? Star of Bethlehem is like aconite, right? That shock and trauma and aconite and arnica. And then aspen is like kind of like your phosphorus, like all these unknown fears, right? And who knows? I just fearful of everything, very sensitive to the environment. Mimulus is more for known fears, shyness, sensitivity. There's walnut for transition or putting up boundaries or emotional protection, like to help you feel have more protection, like that. Think of that nut, right? Is like that's a protective. Pine for guilt and self-blame and perfectionism. Century for people pleasing and weak boundaries and overgivers. Like these are just some examples. There's many more, but these are really beautiful remedies that can support that emotional body that we're going through. And yeah, they're really good to use. They're simple to use. I have one here. This is my protection blend that I've come up. You can blend flower essences together. I am making custom blends for my clients now. This is one of my custom blends. I have two custom blends. I have another one over there called my tree blend. I'm going to do a separate video about my tree blend in a minute. But I have this blend, which is for protection. So when I feel like I need to be emotionally protected, because I can be kind of porous and over empathetic and kind of take on the energy of others. So sometimes when I'm working with a client before client sessions, I will take this to help me not take on any of their energy and to keep my bubble. This is like to keep my bubble and my protective bubble for me and my own biofield or maybe before massage or like things like that is a good time. So this has Star of Bethlehem and yarrow, pink yarrow, and I use it. It's one of my blends that I use. I keep by my office, not too close to my computer. I put it back here, but I use it to when that is arising for me. They can be added to water. They can be used on the skin, actually. They're safe for long-term use. You can mix several of them together. Like I said, that blend has a few together. So I'm mixing a few. You could take a few drops a few times a day, and they can work within minutes, but also sometimes you need to take that repeatedly, and it's a deeper pattern, right? So say you have this deeper people-pleasing, weak boundary overgiver, right? Sounds like carcinosin, right? But Century also can help shift that. You just might need to take it. If it's a really deep-seated thing, we need to take it longer, okay? Might not shift it right away. Like if you're a very fearful person, Aspen might help in the moment, but you might also need to continually take that. Um, I'm sorry. So flower essences are not just like natural mood boosters. They are deeply intelligent emotional medicines that help you return to inner peace, resilience, clarity, self-trust, and soul alignment. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to tell you about flower essences today. I hope you really enjoyed that. Please let me know if you have any questions. I know it's not homeopathy on the Healing with Homeopathy Substack, but it is a branch of homeopathy, in my opinion. And I am seeing clients for flower essences, and I am also taking or making my own custom blends for my clients as well. So if you come to see me for a session, homeopathically, I do include flower essences when I see them fit. So I do that. But you can also just book in a flower essence session and we could work there. And I make a custom blend for you. It'll look like this. It's made with, spring water that's structured, and it's also made with high quality flower essences from the Flower Essence Society. I make the custom blend. I put my thoughts and intentions. I mail it to you. You take it. There's no contraindications. Like I said, it'll come in a bottle like this. Really excited to be doing that for clients, and I'm really seeing some beautiful transformations. I'm going to do a separate video about my tree blend and what I've been taking because I think that's a fun one to share. And yeah, I will talk to you guys in the next video. Please let me know your questions. Please let me know what else you want to know more about, and I'm happy to share those with you. Have an awesome rest of your day.